Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week 9. We are going to go over the assignment for the DQ quickly. The DQ is you must read the Going Places program. You need to have open and available to you as you go through this program the social cognitive theory. And in the process of deconstructing, what you're going to do is you're going to go through the social cognitive theory and you're going to go through the Going Places program and you're going to compare and look at what aspects of the particular social cognitive theory you feel apply to and are being used by this particular program. And once you deconstruct, then you will interact with your fellow students and you need to look for gaps or missing information in their determination of how Going Places utilize SCT, and then and then you're going to make suggestions for improvement. So, ladies and gentlemen, the other is the coup de grace for this class, and that is your final project paper. You will note in this week's lectures I have provided you an APA format. Level 1 heading would be the milestone heading. Level 2 headings would be those particular prompts for each of the areas that you are covering. Okay? So under introduction and background, that would be a centered level 1 heading, and then each of the individual areas on the background that you're answering would be a level 2 heading. Some of you have gone into level 3 headings. If so, please make sure you compare with the APA format for headings and subheadings. I provided that previously in lectures and material. So when we look at the final project, ladies and gentlemen, some of you have struggled with the concept of social and behavioral health. Many of you have had to readjust your programs a couple of times because you went into clinical or rehabilitative or other factors of health which are clinical and treatment in nature and not behavioral. Now, behavioral can be involved in treatment, but it wouldn't necessarily be in a public health program. And that's what we're doing here is we're looking at a public health issue, and then we're looking at a public health program that addresses the issue. We're not looking at treatment, we're not looking at needle exchange programs, unless those particular aspects are public in nature and involve education and behavioral modification as part of the program. So when you write about that program, you're going to want to concentrate on the behavioral aspect, not the physical and treatment aspects of the program. So you want to make sure that you're covering behavioral and social sciences. You don't want to cover the clinical and other sciences. Okay? So you will go through, you have got the milestones in place. Your paper is putting together those milestones. If appropriate and necessary, you will want to make a segue between the milestones. I have given you an example of what an introduction could look like for this particular project. Please make sure that, again, each and every comment that I have made that you respond to by correcting and or providing more information or reworking or replacing the information that is suggested in my recommendations and track changes. I will note many of you are writing in a style that is very difficult to understand from the perspective of you're using a lot of unnecessary and confusing at times expletive constructions. So rather than identify a specific thing, many of you feel that you can't say the social cognitive theory more than once in a paragraph, or you can't use an abbreviation or initialization 2 times in a row. And I'm telling you, yes, you can. You want to be succinct. You want to make sure the reader doesn't have to think when you say this approach, doesn't have to go back through the paper and try to find what approach you're referring to. The SCT approach. Okay? And if the next sentence is again, you will restate SCT holds. You don't have to be afraid of restating and reusing a word or a term or an initialization more than once in a paragraph. You are going to be writing this for a timed challenged executive or board of directors, and they are going to want to see you use language that is succinct, straight, and as to the point as you can possibly make it. There is no room for fancy, fluffy legalese or unnecessary lead-ins. Many of you will have received examples of reworked sentences. You will see they are shorter to the point and they directly identify what is necessary for the reader to understand that which you are referring to. You will also note many of you have been given a comment about first person. Please do not use the first person. This is an academic business report. Anything that is in this report that is not supported by citations and references will be attributed to you as your opinion and will appear as a statement made by you without stating, I think, it's my opinion. We're writing this as if we were going to go to a board of directors for a public health program in your community, present it to them, and ask them to develop or make changes to a programs that are very expensive and very costly. Well, they want to know what the experts say about this. They're going to want that, and that's why we have justify, provide evidence, provide support, give examples. They are going to want to know that there are experts behind this multi-million-dollar decision they may be making based on your document. Okay? So last but not least, if you have any questions relative to your final, I will be having office hours on Friday, Saturday, and early morning Sunday. So as you're writing, if you need help, feel free to call me or email me. Again, you can call me at 801-940-2531, or you can email me at p.vanash@snhu.edu. If for some reason you don't get a response to your email, try calling me. I have had issues with my email. I've had a couple of students have to run tracers. IT is supposedly working on it, but we're not going to make any changes to my email till after the new module. After this module ends and before the new module starts. We don't want to put any more issues into it at this point. So let's take a look at the Module 8. Module 8, we looked at public health assessment models. Module 9, we're going to examine a specific program, deconstructing it using a particular model, which is the social cognitive theory. Throughout the course, several social and behavioral theories have been introduced. You've been asked to provide comparisons and analysis of the programs that you have chosen to deconstruct and make recommendations for using the various theories and strategies. I have provided those of you that have failed to use theories and or strategies a list of the 5 theories, and I've also given you a list of the 3 strategies. They are direct links to those. I suggest if you see that in your paper, you access those when you are rewriting and preparing your final. Throughout the course, those theories and behaviors and programs and models that we've used as means to modify, prevent, and promote positive behavior when it comes to health of the community. We look at those in the very beginning from the very basic model using the social ecological model, where we identify which level from which we are addressing the problem, whether it's interpersonal, intrapersonal, all the way up to public policy. Going Places is a is using a multi-level assessment model, which we refer to as the social cognitive theory. The Going Places program seeks to prevent substance abuse, tobacco, alcohol, and drugs, and antisocial behavior in the adolescent community. The Going Place program has a multi-level approach to its program design. Said students, teachers, school environment, and parents are identified as having a role in both influencing and changing behaviors. The MATCH, Multiple Approaches to Community Health Planning model, was selected for this particular program. The benefit of this model is that the assessment conducted in Phase 1 and the Phase 2 allow the program planner to identify the most at-risk target populations And this provides benefit for the particular use of this model in that the assessments conducted allow us to actually hone in on and make sure we are addressing those needs of the target population. The match model consists of 5 phases. We've set them forth here again. We covered that in the week before last. In the first phase, the planners identify the goals of the program, which were composed of individual levels and multi-level programming to increase parent and school support for positive youth behavior. Therefore, both the physical and individual aspects of the program are considered. The individual goals included good normal physical health for the adolescents, as well as positive health behaviors such as the absence of substance abuse or the antisocial behaviors associated with substance abuse. The environmental goals promoted a positive school climate and altered protective health behaviors of school personnel and parents to combat this problem. During the second phase, the team selected social cognitive theory to be used as the underlying basis for all interventions. As we know, the social cognitive theory postulates that behavior must be reinforced, but the relationship between reinforcement of the behavior is complex because there is a variability in the way individuals respond to reinforcement. The simplest model of reinforcement would, of course, be Pavlov's theory and the response to positive external stimuli. It's not so easy when we start looking at the social cognitive theory. When we look at the interventions that are included, there are special DVDs that were produced that were actually, they were directed to and made for the individual level of teacher behavior and discussion, actually teacher coaching and discussion with their students, teacher training, strategies to improve school environment and climate, and a video booklet that was sent home with to educate the parents. Since the interventions were based on the social cognitive theory, the intervention objectives and methods were indeed quite similar. In general, the methods included an active learning practice with feedback to mastery, modeling, persuasion, and norm setting with reinforcement. The third and fourth phases included development and testing of the program materials, evaluating the implementation process, and conducting the actual program. And then the final phase 5 of the Going Places program called for rigorous evaluation to determine the effectiveness of the intervention. The results demonstrate that the intervention at the individual level was successful in moderating smoking uptake in adolescents. However, this was the only significant difference between the intervention group and the control group. Further analysis demonstrated that the intervention group had similar results when compared to the control group. So in other words, when we look at the particular program and the efficacy of those specific social cognitive theory interventions that were employed, we are comparing to see whether or not the program is successful. And it did prove to be successful when it came to smoking. Now, when it came to negative behaviors and alcohol consumption, there was a little different result. By no means should the Going Places program be considered a failure. While the interventions method for this program were mostly unsuccessful, the program did yield results for the program planners, since they discovered that this approach should not be used in the future with modifications or a different approach. Without modifications or a different approach. There is no guarantee that even the best designed programs will work, and that is why it is critical to constantly monitor and evaluate a program. Now that sounds a little similar because what you did is you didn't actually do the monitoring portion because of course you're not privy to nor do you have access to the actual real-time workings and specific results of the programs that the planners and those implementing the program would have. But you are here asked to evaluate. So you're actually taking on a real life scenario that would be done after the program is analyzed of making those recommendations. So it is unclear whether the collected data throughout this process to monitor the effectiveness was I'm sorry, let me restate that. The evaluation and implementation process involved collection and evaluation of that data. It is understood that that data is critical in determining whether or not to continue with the program and or whether or not it's successful and what modifications to make. And again, this is what you're asked to do. Had they been more thorough in their monitoring and evaluation of the data, many postulate or suggest that the adjustments could have been based on those particular failures in the violence and negative behavior as well as the alcohol. So Module 10, we will conclude this course. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions relative to this week's material, please feel free to call me. Again, 801-940-2531, or you can email me at p.vanash@snhu.edu. For those of you that are working on your program and you emphasized and concentrated too much on the treatment and clinical aspects and rehabilitation aspects of the particular program you chose, do not feel that it is all done and that you have no ability to modify and improve that particular document, because what you can do is you can go back, take a look at your program, and I strongly suggest when you look at your program, look to see if there are any affiliates or any sub-programs within that program that will fit the behavioral social, and introduce that into your final document. Again, ladies and gentlemen, any questions, please let me know. Have a good evening.